While most MSPs are out there hunting endlessly for new clients, the smart ones know their richest opportunities lie in the fields they already own. My name's James Steele and this is Harvest, where MSPs and industry experts share proven ways to grow profitable revenue from your current customer base. No theory, no fluff, just field-tested strategies that work. Let's grow.
I'm a big proponent of make a deal that's so good that people feel silly saying no. If you make an introduction and we figure out that we are a potentially good fit for them and they have the needs, I will pay you an exorbitant amount of money. You don't want to do them, right? Because they're not fun. The customer doesn't want to do them because they know that they're about to get, bent over, essentially. If you're telling me you can't spend an hour or two, right, doing a little bit of research on potential tools that'll have a dramatic impact in their business, are you really going to risk it on 200 words to not clearly communicate who you are, what you do, and who you help? That's mind-blowing to me.
Hey Harvesters, thank you so much for joining me again. It's time for another episode. I hope you've had a great week since we last spoke. I've got a cracking guest for you again. Harrison Barron. There's a name there, Growth Generators, that you might recognise. If you've ever Googled anything MSP, you're going to find his content. He's putting stuff out, top quality stuff, every single day, more or less. And he's got a background that is interesting and makes him definitely well placed to be sharing advice on this show. Involved in building a very successful MSP, runs a 300 strong peer group over in the US, and as I say, putting out lots of content there. And today's chat is a really interesting one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We ended up talking about referrals for quite a lot of it, but that's no bad thing. So how to position your offer, how to go after referrals proactively, how to find them. And then we touched on some stuff around services, knowing your customer well, going into even some website content there at the end. So it's quite a mixed bag, but as always, there's loads of tactical advice in there. I think you're really going to like this. Harrison is a fantastic character. Grab a notepad. We're going in. So, Harrison Barron, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Now, this is somebody who has, I'd say, pretty much mastered the content creation side of things in the MSP space. As someone who is producing video myself, I know how difficult it is to try and generate a YouTube following, and that's something that amazingly Harrison has managed to do with proper consistency. So when you get a second, make sure you head over to Growth Generators and we'll give you a proper plug at the end of the episode. But first of all, let me just welcome you along. Harrison, welcome to Harvest.
Hey, James, thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Good man. Great to have you on here. Slightly weird that you're in your YouTube studio and it's just like watching one of your videos, but I'm getting used to it. Listen, before we dive into the content side of things, you've got loads of gold you can share, but there's something we always do on this show, and that's a misconception. So is there a misconception people have about you when they first meet you?
I don't know if there's like a misconception, but I do love the Adam Sandler approach. And what I mean by that is, we do okay as a business and all that kind of stuff, but I typically, like, if you didn't know me, I don't want to say I dress like I'm homeless, but I'm usually rocking like basketball shorts, flip-flops, and a t-shirt. I think, especially where I came from, I used to live on Long Island where it was a lot of keeping up with the Joneses, and even here, still keeping up with the Joneses to a degree, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. But yeah, man, I'm just here to help as many people as I can. I think when people finally peel back some of the layers of my history, I think they find it quite interesting, and it's a little less judgmental than it was.
Listen, you run a peer group, you're smashing it with your content, so you've got your online community, and you're doing lots and lots. I need to tap into your knowledge. So, this show is all about generating more from your existing customer base. Now, we hear a lot about creating content to bring in new customers, but what can MSPs do these days that's achievable, that could help stimulate business from their existing base? What do you think?
I think there is an alarming amount, and I think we spoke about this, but there's an alarming amount of MSPs that don't have any type of referrals or referral systems. I think a lot of people in the MSP space are typically going out and saying, like, I'm going to have the best MSP service that there ever has existed, which I believe. I don't disbelieve anybody. However, having the best service is rarely the only thing that's going to get your existing clients to send you referrals. And I think a lot of MSPs sleep on creating a real referral engine for their business. And what I mean by that is, yes, like a way that you can consistently predict leads coming in, and also makes your existing customers excited to give you leads. And I think the amount of MSPs, like I've seen so many of these these MSPs that are like, well, we give somebody $100 for a lead, right?
Yeah, is that a bad idea?
Or,
Because I see that too. Do you don't go to that school of thought?
I mean, James, I don't know how it is in the UK, but $100 really doesn't go that far here.
I
I
not
mean,
much further.
I drive a Honda. I'm a pretty humble guy. I drive a Honda Accord. To fill that tank is $45.
I take your point. Okay, so do we need more? Is it more a case of more money makes it worthwhile, or are things like differently?
I mean, there's a couple different things, but I'm a big proponent of make a deal that's so good that people feel silly saying no.
Mm-hmm.
For most existing MSPs, $100 is a drop in the bucket, and most businesses, truthfully, as long as they're not startups, $100 is still a drop in the bucket. But I think also the way in which we frame referrals is dramatically, I don't even want to say declining. It just is terrible. There's really no nice way to put it.
Okay, talk to me about that then. What are people doing wrong? Is it? I mean, surely it's just a case of popping across an email,
right?
Isn't it?
Or it's like, I think a lot of the other thing too is people have this thing of saying, and I'm going to use this blank piece of mail because anyone that watches me on YouTube knows that I love looking at my desk for things to use, right? So, hey, can you send me a referral? Right, and this is my. Can you send me a referral? And I use the back of this piece of mail because it's blank, because there's no details on anything, who they want to meet, how they want to meet it. There's no information. But when you flip it over, there's plenty of information on it, right? At least to show you where it's going, and then it's full of information on the inside. But I think that there is this epidemic of MSPs out there that are across the board, big and small, that look, we all want referrals, right? But if we're not telling people what we want, who we want to meet, why we want to meet them, how we plan on impacting their business, none of it really matters, right? They use that business to pay for their kids' college, pay their mortgage, drive the cars that they want to drive, right? Pay for fancy dinners, hopefully, support their employees, pay their rent, whatever.
So you got a lot of trust there, essentially.
There's a tremendous amount of trust. And then we're just like, hey, if you want to refer us out to anybody, right, this blank sheet of paper, we'll give you $100. How? That is, I would argue to say, the smallest level of commitment possible.
When you put it like that, you're framing it. That doesn't sound particularly great, I have to be honest. So let's get tactical then, in terms of like what would you do, Harrison? You're going to be putting together a referral scheme. What's on that bit of paper then? Is it specifically the job title, the size of company, the location? Here we go. The pen's out.
The pen's out, right? This is, I'm just drawing on the back of this. It is how much money, and I'm writing with a dry erase marker, so it's not that great. But, who is this person? What do they actually want from it? And how much do they actually want to make? And I think MSPs go operate on the assumption that like, hey, I can't spend the money. Your customers statistically will stay with you for 7 to 20 years. Give them something incredible, but also give them information on who they want to meet. Referrals can work in two different ways, right? That client can send you referrals, but there's nothing stopping you from asking that client for referrals.
Well, I don't know about you, but I thought that was pretty hilarious, the way that Harrison just stopped and looked at me like, are you serious? Like £100 would ever be enough? I was actually kind of referring to the fact that should we or shouldn't we incentivize? But anyway, it was a funny moment there. He's got a great point though. Throwing £100, like it's meaningful money at a customer and hoping for the best probably isn't the way to go. When you think about, like he was saying, these people have bought, cars and houses through these business relationships. So if you do want serious referrals, you want to get this going, I think a really nice way to think of this, and you can pick the value, of course, but think of it in terms of your customer lifetime value, your LTV. So think like, okay, I want to give them a percentage where it's 5% or 10%, probably quite a lot of that referral, but make the offer so good that your customers basically feel silly saying no.
Go on that person's LinkedIn, right? They're already your customer. They probably know you. I hope they know you. I hope they like you, and I hope they trust you. And when they know you, they like you, and they trust you, now it makes it so much easier for you to go on their LinkedIn profile and say, hey, I would really like to meet this specific person. And if you make an introduction and we figure out that we are a potentially good fit for them and they have the needs, I will pay you an exorbitant amount of money.
So are we talking
to
about,
have them.
so are you looking at someone's their connections and saying, I can see you're
100%.
connected to this person. Okay, and that's the way to do it. And so let's just say you don't have a person in mind then. You just sat there and you're thinking, okay, I could just really do some more referrals and I know my existing customer base. Would you just go through and say, I know he's a great customer or she's a great customer, have a look at the connections and see who looks interesting and then just reach out with a
100%.
direct
You
message?
got to do your homework, right? Nobody's going to go out there and do the homework for you. Now, every once in a while, you're going to get a nice little layup, which is always great. You'll get the person that says, hey, I know exactly, who you want to meet and all that kind of stuff. But the vast majority of businesses don't know who you want to meet, right? They don't know. They don't know. You're the tech guy. They don't think about how you grow your business unless you're out networking and all that good stuff. So you have to clearly tell them who you want to meet and you have to do the homework. I mean, I think it's insane to me how few people do any bit of homework on who they want to meet, why they want to meet them, the referrals that they're trying to get, right? You might say, and LinkedIn makes it super easy, right? But going through, okay, hey, you're an insurance company, right? Maybe your insurance company will call it 15 employees, right? Smaller one, ballpark $1,500 to $3,000 a monthly recurring revenue. Birds of a feather flock together. And now with the new, I've started to see it more and more. But on LinkedIn, right, there's a little opportunity there to go through under the search bar, and people have started using this. But under the search bar, there's a little like QR code, and you can click that QR code and have people directly connect with you. It just scans immediately, goes to your profile, and allows you to connect. So there's not even guessing, right? So birds of a feather flock together. Your customer, right? Maybe it's your dream customer, maybe you're smaller, or maybe it's a 25-person company, right? They're attending conferences. They're attending networking events. They're attending, I believe there's CIEs, continuing insurance education, right? Because they do have to pass levels of training and that kind of thing. So it's crazy to me how few businesses are going out there and saying, okay, great, I've done my homework. I know how many people are in that insurance agency. I would like to meet this person, this person, this person, this person.
Okay, so although this is finding new customers, it's doing it from your existing customer base. So I think it's perfectly aligned with this show. And what a great idea. Quite obvious when you think about it. Instead of hoping customers just randomly remember someone to refer, which we all know is just very unlikely to happen, what Harrison's saying here is research their LinkedIn connections first. Identify people that you think might be a good fit and then approach your customer with a targeted ask. What a great idea. I mean, sometimes the best ideas are simple, right? Pick your top 5 customers this week. Check their LinkedIn connections and see if you can find just 2 or 3 ideal prospects each. And then make a specific introduction request with those names. This episode is sponsored by Sales Builder, where I work. I really wanted to tell you about us because I see so many MSP sales teams buried in admin instead of talking to customers and building relationships. We help you automate your sales process with standardized product catalogs and professional proposals. Our service matrix, or the white space module, that's the bit that shows you visually where the opportunities are in your customer base, from service gaps to upcoming renewals. Everything links directly with your PSA and, of course, your distributors. If you'd like to free up your sales team's time and spot more revenue opportunities, simply connect with me on LinkedIn or head to salesbuilder.com. Let's get back to it. Is there somewhere else, another opportunity that you'd use, or do you get the support engineers involved, and that's something that have sort of seen work in the past, or would you say it's just sort of new business reps, or how do you suggest that's set up?
So when you say sales engineers, what do you mean?
Well, pre-sales engineers, those that are sort of involved in the technical work, maybe could well be help desk teams as well. So often they're the ones that have the most contact with their customers. Do you put anything in place there?
So I think there's this very toxic idea that went in the industry. I don't know when, but it was I'm gonna say TLA, 3-letter acronym, right? It was a QBR, a quarterly business review, TBR, technology business review, ABR, annual business review. it was this concept of, and I really hate that somebody started this, because I think it's a real poison pill in the industry. But it was this: hey, if we get our dream customers or our clients to sit down with us on a regular basis, right? Whether that's, every quarter, 6 months, year, whatever it is, and our goal is to upsell them every time, right? It's, it gets the wrong reaction every single time. That customer's gonna be like, every single time. I really wish I had my fake money laying around, but every single time I gotta crack open my purse and spend money with you over that QBR. And I think a lot of MSPs have this idea that that's the thing that they're supposed to do, and I would already say it's very much not the thing to do. There's going to be opportunities throughout the entire year that you're upselling them. It's like when your insurance, broker or insurance agent calls you up and says, "Hey man, it's time to look at your insurance." And you're like, "What am I going to get screwed on this year?" It's never you don't even go in there in a positive light.
Well, you used to call, don't you? That's the point. You end up not doing those calls. That's what ultimately happens.
Yes, you don't want to do them, right? Because they're not fun. The customer doesn't want to do them because they know that they're about to get, bent over. Yes. Essentially. They're gonna, so it's a net negative for everyone. I'm not saying that they're not important, because they are very important to do, but it's the frame in which we go into these things. What if you were there to be like, "Hey, we projected, right, based on the tickets that you guys sent in, we projected that we saved you 1,000 hours this year of time. I just want to let you know that we absolutely love working with you, and we want to thank you so much for everything that you guys have done for us and being a truly amazing partner. And I just want to go over some of the main tickets, some of the hiccups that we might have had throughout the year, and also address them and what we're doing better for next year." Instead of saying, "Hey, we know that you added 6 new people." They know that they added 6 new people. The bill should already be up. I think we lose the idea of, like, when they become a customer, they become like this different kind of person, right? And we go into it with the impression that, hey, let's just look at them as a piggy bank and let's just see how hard we can hit them until they break, right? There's nothing stopping you from investing a little bit of time, a little bit of effort to go through and truly learn about the business, right? And it doesn't matter what business it is. It could be any business, right, that an MSP is working with. But I think a lot of MSPs are so focused on, like, get them under management, do an onboarding and just start providing support, which is what they should be doing. But at some point throughout the process, whether that's in the onboarding process, whether it's in the discovery process, or whether that's after they become a customer, what if we change that S to managed solutions provider, and we truly went out and spent 15, 30 minutes, an hour of our time, which is nothing, right? I know plenty of $3, $4, $5 million MSPs with 30 or 40 or 50 clients. You're telling me you can't spend an hour or two, right, doing a little bit of research on potential tools that'll have a dramatic impact in their business because we know things in technology that most other people don't? That's crazy to me. And the value that you provide gets multiplied by a tremendous number because you spent an hour or two out of your time just being like, "Hey, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this already, but this technology exists, and this technology exists, and this technology exists. We just want to go through and provide some other solutions. We're not going to make any extra money from you by rolling these out, but I think it could have a massive benefit on your business." If that's something you guys want to explore, we're happy to dive a bit deeper, but we identified those things. And then if you focus on a niche, you probably already know these tools. So you don't even have to spend the time. You already know it. You can go out there and make the introductions or speak to that client. And then guess what? You've taken somebody from being a client to being a raving fan because you didn't just take their money and help them fix their computers. You truly provided an incredible solution for that business, and you will have an impact on that business for the rest of their days.
Yeah, that goes a long way, doesn't it? I mean, like you say, it really lends itself as well. If you go down the niche, you go down that kind of vertical specialization as well. You're obviously having to learn far fewer tools, but you're positioning yourself as a real expert. So, I really like that advice. This is a really cool point, and I think it's very pertinent if you're niching down. I think it's something perhaps you'll be doing naturally anyway. But if you're not, the important thing is that regardless, you're understanding where your clients are working the best that you can. So spend an hour researching tools that could transform their businesses. You're supposed to be the technology advisor. You're supposed to know this stuff better than anyone. So Just pick a client this week, spend 30 minutes researching tools that could solve their industry-specific challenges, and then just schedule a solutions review to share your findings with them. Can I ask you, Harrison, in terms of your membership community, are there any standout stories there you can think of where you've got partners perhaps who maybe sort of more medium-sized, that have made a step change or something small like that? It's just a switch in the way they do things, and it's really propelled them in terms of their existing customer base. Something they've done, whether it's cross-selling or some other element.
Tons. From new MSPs to established MSPs, that exists all over the place. I had one of my earliest students, right? This individual specifically, he got his pilot's license in his first year of owning a business, and he bought a plane in his first year of owning a business. Crazy. And he's like, how do I go about it in this conversation? How do I go about it in this conversation? He's like, hey, I'm thinking, and through MSP Heroes, he was going in with a couple proposals. I'm like, dude, those proposals are massively too light. I go, people are actually going to look at you. They're going to look at you as a poor service because you're not charging enough money. I get yelled at all the time for us not charging enough money for what we do in MSP Heroes, but we want to make it available to every MSP.
So he wasn't charged then, right? Is that what you were saying? So his proposal,
he wasn't charging enough.
Right.
He didn't know how to have sales conversations. He didn't quite know how to like go speak to people about it. And we talked about framing it and all that kind of stuff, all the way down to, hey man, I'm doing a discovery call. I'm like, look, do your discovery call. Take your phone, and the real ones will know. And hopefully I can find this fairly quickly, but I love this stupid little device. It's called the Plaud, Plaud.
I know about this. This is the recorder, isn't it? This is the
recorder, right? It blows my mind. Like, we have all the technology under the sun. How few people carry one of these on? It couldn't be easier. It sticks on the back of your phone. There's a wearable one that wears like a watch, right? And the only reason why I'm saying that is because this little device, being able to record your conversations and go back and say, what can I do better? I literally had somebody who another member, and he's been growing in the med spa space, although it's a little bit of a tougher space because of a whole bunch of, some need to have doctors, some need to, don't, some accept insurance, all that kind of stuff. But he's like, I didn't know I say a lot. I didn't know I click a pen 1,000 times in a meeting. I also realized where my sales went wrong. I wasn't handling objections correctly. So, recording yourself and going through that immediately had an impact on him. But specifically for this individual, I'm like, just go talk to people. Like,
what mistakes was he making? So some people listening will be thinking, okay, am I doing this right? Am I doing these calls correctly? What specific mistakes was he making then in these calls?
Just even something as simple as explaining what we do and how we do it, right? Is a struggle for most MSPs. When somebody goes, hey, what do you do for work? Grant, I'm married. My wife barely knows what an MSP is, and she probably only knows it because of osmosis through the house, right?
She's not living,
because
Harrison.
I
She's
make
not
videos. Yeah, I make videos 5 days a week, and she hears me talk about it and how to explain it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So she's gotten much better at it, and that's my wife. And I'm I guess in a weird way, a professional coach, right? Telling people how to sell this. So. And she barely understands it. So if she could barely understand it, what is the MSP community to do when they can barely understand it, right? So it's something as simple as explaining. Like I always tell people, I'm like, look, the easiest way to explain what we do is it's Geek Squad on steroids. Best Buy has spent trillions of dollars around the world trying to build their brand of Geek Squad, right? It's Geek Squad on steroids for businesses. That's what we do. Immediately. Everybody and their mother knows exactly.
So it's that brand association
you might
idea.
You might not want to be associated with Geek Squad. Look, but it tells people exactly who we are and what we do because they know that they need to bring their computers to Best Buy if they're having an issue, right? For a personal computer. Hey, we're Geek Squad on steroids that specifically help businesses with computer problems. And now anybody and their mother knows exactly what an MSP does. You can go above and beyond compliance and all that good stuff as well. 100%. But even something that simple as explaining what we do, how we do it to our ideal customer gets lost 99% of the time in translation.
I think that goes a long way for vendors as well. I think associating another brand definitely helps you shortcut the time required. Harrison, we have a segment in our little chat, and that is called Industry Manure, and I think you're going to like this one. This is, what is it you hear that gets bandied around in the industry, advice that you just think, no, that doesn't resonate with me. You don't want to do that.
There's so many avenues to go down on this. I think the most common is that I hear is, and this was another poison pill that was delivered at some point, my website doesn't need that many words, or it's not supposed to have that many words on it. We have already a hard time with clearly communicating what we do and how we do it. Most people's websites, especially on the homepage, right, has, I see it constantly, right, less than 200 words. It is potentially the only time that person's going to land on your website and go on your website. Are you really going to risk it on 200 words to not clearly communicate who you are, what you do, and who you help? That's mind-blowing to me. And I think that there's this obsession with like this really good-looking website, which is great, right? But if we don't know, right? Think about like modern art. In many cases, it's like the paint splattered on the wall. If we don't know what it is, or the person looking at it doesn't know what it is, then it's just a bunch of hoity-toity BS, right? You have to know what it is, right? You have Vincent van Gogh, the Mona Lisa, Starry Night, right? You have Andy Warhol making these pop culture Campbell's soup cans. We know what it is. But if you splatter paint on a wall, it just looks interesting. And I think that that's a lot of what's in this industry right now, is this very poor ability to communicate clearly on who we are, what we do, how we do it. And then you have something as impactful as your website, where it's the salesperson that never lets you down, that's working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that should be jam-packed with information, clearly describing the benefits that somebody would get if they worked with you. So when somebody reads it, they go, that's the company I want to work with. They can help me deal with my problems. Instead, most people have these hieroglyphics on their website where the person has to decipher whether or not it's even worth reaching out.
You know why this is? It's because it's like back in the 90s, I think it's one of those things, isn't it, where you kind of designed a site and everyone went super text heavy and it just became these blocks.
100%.
And then that advice to kind of steer away from anything that's blocks of text has obviously gone to the extreme now. And in my experience, a lot of websites look exactly the same. And there's no excuse now, not with the tools you have available to write quality content.
You have ChatGPT to help you. You have Knowing Your Ideal Customer. You have, shameless plug, my YouTube channel. You have this podcast to listen to, right? There's zero excuse to poorly communicate with your dream customers. And you can put on, and you don't know when people are visiting. I see visitors all the time. Even when I look at MSP websites, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, you're not awake. It is literally a salesperson for you. All you have to do is get the text right. Granted, there's going to be a percentage of those people that are not interested in what you do and how you do it. Totally fine. But there's also going to be a massive percentage of people that do go on the website because they looked up IT services Charlotte, right? Computer, printer help Charlotte. I got, my business is getting hacked, whatever it is. I'm just using Charlotte as the neighboring city. But it's crazy to me how many people don't, they don't have a website, or their website sucks. They don't write a blog, right? You're telling me that you can't do 30 minutes of work for working on your business once a day? It blows my mind. And then these are the same people that are like, how do I get leads? I'm like, you got to put some kind of work in. It's not just, there's no magical service. And surprise, surprise, I don't care if you work with me or you work with any of my competitors, because at some point we are going to be launching marketing services for MSPs. It makes no difference. But if they're not going back and telling you, who do you want to pay you money?
Yes.
Then their marketing's never going to work in the first place.
Yeah, and there's that consistency element as well, isn't there? I mean, I suppose you get that through a website. You get that if you can add to it with blogs, with videos, and so on, then that's going to be so much more powerful, isn't it? Listen, our final part here is for you to ask the next guest a question. So, it could be a industry expert. It could be an MSP, but have you got a question you'd like to throw out to the next guest? Something about something? No, you decide. I'm not going to prompt you. You decide.
What is the most impactful thing you've done to help your client?
Nice. I like that, because that works both ways. That can be regardless of who they are. That's brilliant.
100%.
Harrison, we've kind of touched on it a little bit throughout the chat. But why don't you do me what we call a yell from the barn? This is your opportunity to say, hey, come and find me. This is where I am. And you're not difficult to find, let's be honest. And here's what I do. Tell me about what's going on in the world of growth generators in the next 6 months or so. What's interesting? What's going on?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned this because I'm actually writing an email for the next couple months. I'm speaking at ScaleCon in
That's a good one.
September.
Yes,
so
excellent.
pretty excited for that.
Yeah, it's our home.
I will also say, if anybody's listening, I am looking for more stages to get on. If you know something, send me a DM, send me a message, and just say, "Hey, Harrison, I have a connection, I have a plug. I think you'd be a great fit for this." Whatever it is, I'm actively looking to get on more stages. I've been terrified of public speaking, but after ScaleCon, I've been reassured from Nigel and Taher and some of the
You
others.
smashed it. Let's be honest. I
did a good job.
Sources, yeah.
Truth be told, I'm super nervous in front of people as far as like speaking like that. I did allegedly a great job. If that's the case, if I can help more MSPs, that's really all I care about. But as far as the next 6 months go, we are going to be launching I think we're going to be launching a done-for-you marketing services for MSPs. One of my goals this year is to build the membership MSP Heroes to 300 members. We have a bunch of website templates coming out, so MSPs don't have to, with like pre-filled content, so they don't have to say like, how do I clearly communicate to my dream customers? It's going to be built into that.
That's great. And don't forget the
Working on
YouTube channel,
partnering.
of course. So the YouTube channel needs to be on. This is where I first stumbled across you. I think it was actually prior to me joining Sales Builder, where I am now, to learn about some proposal and quotation stuff. And you had a sales process video, I think. You've got a video for everything on there.
And I'm always looking for ideas, jump on there. But yeah, YouTube growth generators. We have a lot of big plans.
But make sure you go and check out Growth Generators on YouTube. Plenty of stuff in there. Whenever you're not sure about a particular challenge coming up with your MSP business, then you're bound to find an answer there. Harrison, any final words before we let you go?
No, James, look, thank you so much for having me, man. This was a lot of fun. It was, I appreciate you reaching out. The last thing I would leave people with is focus on being a solutions provider and not a service provider. If you truly go out and you provide solutions for your dream customers, naturally, you're going to have such an impact on somebody's business that referrals will come easy. And if you're struggling building your business, right? I don't care if you watch our stuff or you don't watch our stuff, but take the time to listen to your clients, see what pains they have, and go through and truly think about who you would love to help and see if they're connected with them. And if they are, what's the worst that happens if you ask for an introduction? They say no. Shoot your shot. I promise you your MSP will be bigger just by taking that little bit of advice. You don't have to give me a nickel for it, but ask for a real referral of somebody that you would love to, like truly love to work with, and you'll have massive impact on people's businesses.
That's a lovely spot to leave it. Harrison, it's been really good hanging out. Thank you for getting back to me and being so generous with your time. Hopefully I've brought you to maybe a slightly different audience, and maybe there'll be some fresh eyeballs that will learn who you are and can bolster your content and hopefully engage with you in the future. Been an absolute pleasure, my man. Thank you so much. And we'll hopefully have you on again sometime if we can squeeze some more time out of you.
James, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
So the big question, what did you think of that? Drop me a message on LinkedIn. Let me know. Oh, while you're there, why don't you drop me a question? I can even bring you onto the show potentially in the form of a voice note. You can do that on a mobile very easily. Harrison, I thought was a brilliant guest. Loads of fun. Lots of tactical stuff in there, which is what we like. We talked customer lifetime value, linking to that, whatever it is you're going to offer somebody for a referral. That's really important. So come up with something there. I love that bit of advice about looking at LinkedIn connections. I think that's just a total no-brainer, and you should just pause this now and go and do it right away. Transform the business reviews into celebration meetings instead of that kind of sales pitch or just going loads of speeds and feeds. Make sure you know your vertical specific tools. You owe it to yourself and to your customers to be on top of that stuff. And if your website's looking super light, it couldn't be any easier these days to make sure that you're fully explaining what it is you do, who you help, and putting some content up there about previous case studies and so on. It's been a pleasure having you. Please join me next time for another chat. Again, I would love to hear what you think of the show. If you can leave us a review or share it with a colleague, that's even better. Until the next time, ta-ta for now. That is it for this episode of Harvest. If you found this useful, all the links we mentioned are in the show notes. And of course, if you enjoyed it, please do leave us a review and share it with a friend, or even better, someone else in the industry who you know would get value from it. Until next time, happy harvesting.